Hello, mixtresses and mixters. This is mixtressrae. You're watching Mixtress Video. So someone recently had asked me something about maybe my top 5 Oracle decks or top 10 or something. I am down to, I've done a lot of downsizing this year. I've already got this little spell candle going, so I might as well just bring it out. I'm down to 18 Oracle decks. I might even go further than that as far as downsizing. Just realized I didn't turn my light on in here. I think it makes a little bit of a difference once it gets warmed up. Okay, so yeah, let's just get into it. I'm going to count down my top 10 Oracle decks. So this is not going to be an entire Oracle collection video. It's just going to be my top 10. These are the ones, for the most part, with Oracle decks, I use them for you guys. I use them for client readings. I use them for pick-a-pile readings. Most of the time, I don't use Oracle decks personally for myself. I will point out the ones that I do. Besides just sometimes at night, I'm sitting around watching YouTube videos on my computer and I'm just shuffling decks and picking little cards for myself. But I don't really use Oracle decks in a serious way most of the time. So let's just get into it. I'm giving an honorable mention to my 2 homemade decks. These are both decks that I have appropriated the boxes and the cards from a different deck. So this one used to be that 90s tarot, but I turned it into a song oracle. So I think I'm just going to call it Mixtress Oracle. I think that it might just stay like this as a prototype. So this is the way that, if you've gotten a reading from me super recently, I probably used this deck, but I just created it less than 2 weeks ago, or about 2 weeks ago. So this is just highly, highly subjective, some of my favorite songs, some songs that I associate with particular tarot cards. Every single night I associate with the 9 of Swords. And I just, it's a lot of Kate Bush, a lot of Fiona Apple. It's very much my song oracle. I call myself the mixtress because I've always it's that combination of mixtape and sorceress, I call myself the mixtress because I've always been a person that the way that I create my witchcraft, the way that I fill a space and alter the energy in a space is through playing music. That's why I have a radio show, and I've wanted a way to copyright free be able to pick music for you guys, and this is my solution. I'm really happy with this little hand done collaged deck. So this is it's sharing the number 10 spot with my other homemade oracle, which I've put in the Botanical Inspirations oracle deck box. And I used the Crystal Tarot to collage over with this one. This is my Magic and Medicine of Plants oracle deck. This one I just this week uploaded the imagery into Make Playing Cards, and I'm gonna order myself a prototype first because I made this deck about 2 years ago. I just literally cut images out of a book and glued them with Elmer's glue, not even glue stick. I used glue stick on that one that I just did, and it worked much better. So it's very, very homemade. So I might, depending on if my prototype that I order for Make Playing Cards actually looks nice, I might just have a link in the future to Make Playing Cards website so you can go and print this deck out, and I'll get a little cut from it or something, and you can pick what kind of cardstock you want and all that shit. But I'm not at that point yet. I just this week scanned these in, and I haven't even ordered my own prototype from them yet. But that is my Magic and Medicine of Plants deck. I call it that because I have a Reader's Digest book that is called The Magic and Medicine of Plants, and I took it was already like a bunch of pages were missing from the book, so I just tore out the pages and I used my typewriter and all that stuff. So okay, so that's the honorable mention. In the number 10 spot are my two homemade decks. In the number 9 spot this is the first Oracle deck I ever owned in my life. Back in like, this deck came out I think in like 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. And I had it back then, but at that time I didn't know the difference between, and I just keep it in this pretty little bag. At that time I didn't know the difference between Oracle decks and tarot decks. Still haven't filled in my own fairy guide. And I got rid of it, or I think actually I've just lost it in the tornado, honestly. I don't think I got rid of it on purpose. And I just rebought it again about a year ago. And this is my next deck. I do like I'll keep one Oracle deck on my altar and I'll go through each card, just shuffling, but setting aside the ones that I've already pulled, and do like deep dives with the guidebook. As soon as I finish doing that with Kali Oracle, which I've been doing since December. So I do it very slowly. Like sometimes I only pick one card a week from an Oracle deck at my little altar. But this is the next one in line that I want to do like a deep study like that with. And it's like a 63 card deck or something. I really, really resonate with it now. And whenever I was a teenager and I first got this deck, I was kind of unsettled by this imagery, I guess. And I didn't really resonate with it that much, but I do now. So I'm excited to like really get into this deck. And the times that I have used it just for like one card pulls and stuff have been really, really effective. So this is going to be kind of a personal deck for me. Like I don't know how often I'll use it for clients, but I feel like it's one that I want to spend the time to really get to know before I think about using it for clients. So that's why I'm going to do like a deep dive study with that deck. But, you know, that's not even going to start until like next month or even later. So I'll be studying that deck thoroughly for like the next year, most likely. In the number 8 spot is my Le Vampire Oracle. This is another one that's like, it's kind of a deep dive deck. I will use it. I haven't really used it for client readings, but I will sometimes use it for pick-a-pile readings, but it is one that I feel like is a deeper dive deck. I have gone through this entire deck in my like more in-depth studies. And this one's it's a confronting deck about like, you know, trauma and things like that for me. I love that I don't know if this is intentional from Jasmine Beckett Griffith, but every time she has an instrument in one of her cards or her artwork, they're always playing left-handed. And that always makes me really happy because I'm left-handed. And you don't see that very often. So yeah, I really love this deck. I mean, even though it's like low on the list of my top 10, like I only have 18 decks and I am very, very happy with all of them. You know what I mean? In the number 7 spot is Vintage Wisdom Oracle. I really only use this deck as like a basic Oracle deck for client readings. It used to be like I used it in like every single reading, but I haven't been using it as much lately. But I still think it's a really great, it's just accessible. It's very accessible. You don't need a guidebook with this. It's very, very basic, but like because I'm not super into Oracle decks in general, like this kind of deck really works for me. And this is my favorite card in the whole deck. I really love it. The imagery is really pretty. And it's not like a lot of my decks, like the imagery is very strange and dark and like, but this is one that like, you know, if I get a client reading order from someone that I don't know at all, and they might be like a little bit older and they might be unfamiliar with tarot, like if I get that sense, I know that this is not a deck that's going to be upsetting, you know, for someone like that. Somebody who's reluctant to get into the whole tarot thing is not going to be And that's not to say something against that deck. I still really like that deck, obviously. I'm putting it pretty high on my list here. Where are we? 10, 9, 8, 7. So in the number 6 position, I'm kind of like, is this 6 or is this 5? I love this deck, but I actually don't get it out that much anymore. And this is the Amenti Oracle. This one I use as sort of like a moral compass, kind of, or an affirmation deck. This is the 42 Principles of Ma'at by Jennifer Sodini and, oh, what's the author's name? Or the artist? Natalie Ray Miller, I think. I really love her art, and I really want her to create a tarot deck, because this art speaks to me so hard. I would love to have it, because I'm more into tarot than I am into oracle, but the 42 Principles of Ma'at in oracle form is also just, I love this deck. This is one that I do use for myself personally as well. And this is one that, all the ones that aren't like in their boxes are ones that I just keep out all the time. So in the number 5 position is my favorite animal deck to use for client readings. This is like in almost all of my videos lately. Will you focus, please? Hello? Apparently not. Apparently you will not. Here we go. Got to do it manually. So this is the Oracle of the Strange Forest that I showed in my last video, that I added all the keywords and stuff so I could make it, because I wanted it to be my primary animal deck, and I like to pick an animal spirit card for most of my client readings. I like to do that. So this has made it so accessible. It's great. I love it. It's my favorite kind of cardstock. It's that like swishy cardstock, like Wild Unknown. And it's got these gorgeous holographic edges. Love it. Love it. And the artwork is so weird, but it works. That's my favorite combination for an oracle deck, is weird artwork, basic concepts, because you can really build a lot on basic concepts. But I like weird imagery. That's just how I am. So that is in the, is that 5? Number 5? 4, 3, 2, yeah. I keep losing track of where I am. In the number 4 spot is the Goddess Oracle. I spilled wine all over this book. I don't usually consult the book, and I just keep it in this old Ipsy bag. Speaking of subscription services that I regret getting. And I've edged it. I've trimmed it and edged it, and it just looks gray, but it's a silver marker. Oh, look, Kali's right there on top. So, I actually, like, most of the time in my client readings, I use a different goddess deck, but I like this one slightly more. But, you know, I usually pick a goddess for almost every client reading. And I love goddess decks and animal decks that have, you know, the name of the goddess and a keyword. So you don't have to look them up in the guidebook. You can use it as a basic oracle deck if you want, just using the keywords. I really like that. And this one is very inclusive. And the guidebook also has a lot of information. It tells you how to pronounce the goddesses. It tells you like about their history. It gives you like poetry and ritual ideas, and like, it's great. And this is one that's just like a US Games deck, so you can easily get a hold of it too. I love this deck. Like, I'm flipping through the whole thing. I haven't used it that much lately because I got gifted a goddess deck from one of my friends, Jess, and I love that deck too, but it's just a little cuter, and this one's a little bit more confronting in its imagery, but I love it. And then in the number 3 position, you guys have seen this in every video, the Everyday Witch Oracle. I love this. Affirmation for acceptance with the tornado in the background. I love this because it's 40 cards, 10 cards for each element. And so it has kind of an organization, but it can also be used as a basic oracle deck. Because you just pick a card and you're like, oh, speak your mind. Okay. And I think of it as practical. This is what I say about this deck every time I pull it out. So sorry. I'm definitely repeating myself, but I think of this as practical advice. Every time I pick a card from this deck, it is practical advice for you to use to move on with your day or your week or whatever. And I love all the animals in it. It's a little bit diverse. Like, I would love for this artist, I don't have Lisbeth something. I don't have the box on hand. Where is the box? I don't know where the box is these days. Oh, there it is. Deborah Blake and Elizabeth Alba. Elizabeth? Yes. Tiny text up high. It's better. I would really like for them to redo. Oh, this is my favorite card in the whole deck. I would really like for them to redo the Everyday Witch Tarot because I would love to have that deck, but there's just no diversity in it. And not that that's not always like, sometimes I can still work with a deck like that, but this is the kind of deck that I'd love to use for clients. This one has a little bit of diversity in it. I think they could have gone further. But anyway, I love this deck and I use it for almost every reading, every client reading. And then in the number 2 position is my new favorite basic oracle deck, and it is the Oneromancy Alcharinga or whatever. Beautiful hologram. It's that same cardstock as that Oracle of the Strange Forest. This is another one that the concepts, if you get into the guidebook, they can be a lot more complex because this is about divination through dreams. But I think this can be used as a basic oracle deck. It's just my favorite combo of this is a very basic concept. Give it time, but it's got weird imagery. So you can, I don't know, for me, that's just the perfect combination. You can take a basic concept and you can take it further into your psyche by using strange imagery, And the fact that this harkens back to dreams is also interesting. So it's there's a lot of depth to this deck, but you can also take it at face value. That is the best kind of oracle deck, in my opinion, whenever you don't have to dig in and go to the depths, but you can, And the imagery is just so gorgeous. It's Daniela Efe did the art, and it's Stephanie Alia, I think, that is the creator. That team also did Gothmancy Tarot, which I would love for them to put out another edition of that tarot on this cardstock. I would, if you're watching, Stephanie and Daniela, please do that, please, because this cardstock is the best. It's my favorite. Okay. Now, my number 1, I don't even have the whole deck out here, but my number 1 oracle deck, because this is the one I've been using for myself at my altar space, is Kali Oracle. Kali's my girl. I've got this little, I think I got this from Goddess Provisions or something. Pretty little agate slice. I keep that on top. And these are just the cards from the deck that I have left to do my in-depth study on. So it's just 10 cards. So this isn't the full deck because the rest of them are in the box. I just set them aside whenever I've pulled them. And this is just one that I can go really deep with just for myself. I don't know if I'll ever use this for clients because this is the kind of thing that it's not a basic oracle deck, You can't pull a card and be okay, this is what this means. You have to dig into the guidebook and really take your time with it. unless you know it really, really, really well. And so I feel like it's going to be years before I get to that point. But I love this deck. Take the automatic focus back. And this is kind of what I'm doing with it, just to show you guys. As an example, I will make little notes. I will highlight. When I've pulled a card, I'll write the date at the end of the entry of when I first pulled it. And I've been doing this since December. When I first got the deck, it was like early December, early to mid-December. And I've just been going through it very slowly. And this is just out on my little tarot altar at all times. So that's it. That's my like top 10 Oracle decks. Thank you guys for watching. Maybe I'll do this with tarot too. Because at this point I have about 25 tarot decks, so it would be a little bit harder to pick a top 10 in that sense, but it would be fun to do. I don't, at this point, have any plans to buy any more Oracle decks. I know Amrit Brar, who created Marigold Tarot, is currently working on an Oracle deck. So whenever that comes out, I will definitely be buying that. But that is literally the only Oracle deck I have any plans of buying at this point. So that is over half of my Oracle deck collection. So thank you guys for watching.